Welcome to Fight Club 24/7. My name's Johnny Rashman. Right, let's get straight into it. True Geordie posted a video, I think it was yesterday, talking about Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. It was titled... Now look, I've watched True Geordie's content throughout the years. I'm not going to say I watched lots of it, but there's times where I have watched his content, and the guy's very good at what he does, very polished, right? But this was absolutely horrific. This was a terrible take, terrible opinion, whatever you want to call it, right? And this is why I'm very big on exposing Jake Paul's nonsense, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, it's good for boxing, more eyes on the sport. It pollutes the sport, because you generally got people who'll be watching that on True Geordie's platform. They'll be watching it and they'll be listening to what True Geordie's saying and agreeing with him. With all due respect to the bloke, he either has a deep lack of boxing knowledge, or he doesn't want to rock the boat with Jake Paul because he's in there with the YouTube lot. He's commentating on a few of the fights. So it's a nice little gig, isn't it? Right? But I'm telling you now, the stuff he was talking was just fucking garbage. Absolute nonsense. And it sounds like a bloke who doesn't understand the sport. Right? And that's fine. Look, we're all entitled to our opinion. Anyone on YouTube, don't matter if you know the sport, if you're not, everyone's entitled to an opinion. Right? And I get it. There'll be fans out there who aren't hardcore fans. You might not even watch much boxing. They might just watch the big fights. And the way True Geordie breaks it down is probably easier for them to digest rather than trying to talk technical. I get that. But when you're sending out a complete fabrication or something, or the message just is incorrect, that's where I have a problem. Right? So let's talk about some of the things he says. He was looking at Tommy Fury's last fight, right? He came up the footage and he was analysing the fight. He said things like this. Tommy leaves himself wide open when he's punching. It's all about offence. He doesn't protect himself a lot. If he did fight against Jake Paul, he would probably outbox him for a few rounds, but it wouldn't shock me if he did catch him and knock him out. Jake Paul he's talking about. Then he said, is there an issue with Tommy's power? Tommy fought a bum. The goal was to make a statement. Tommy got caught with a fairly big shot, which he wasn't happy about. Okay, it's boxing. He got caught with one shot. So what? Oh my God. So you think because Tommy got caught with a shot, you think that has any significance on the Jake Paul fight? Jesus Christ. If you're trying to get a Jake Paul fight, it has to be better than that. It needs to be a stoppage. And because he was able to hit this guy so many times, the power advantage has to be with Jake Paul, in my opinion. Hold on. The power advantage has to be with Jake Paul, in my opinion. Right. First of all, Tommy's fighting a boxer. Right. He's fighting someone. It wasn't a great opponent, granted, but it's someone near enough his own size. Jake Paul is fighting smaller men. Of course, you can knock out people who don't box and who are smaller. Right. How do you determine that he has better power than Tommy Fury? You're basing it off Tommy fighting a pro fighter and Jake Paul fighting a basketball player, a YouTube player, and the worst strikers in MMA history. Well, one of them in Ben Askren, and Tyron Woodley ain't much better when it comes to striking, right? But in your mind, you think that equates to Tommy having more power. Please, mate, right? With all due respect, go and ask 50 boxing coaches, yeah? Go and say, do you think Jake has better power than Tommy, judging by this? They'll all say the same. He's fighting smaller men. Let him knock out someone his own size, right? Let him fight someone his own size and see how he gets on there, right? This is about John Fury. Big John wants to be offended if anyone considers Jake to beat Tommy. You can't say you're going to see a real Tommy this time out, then he goes to a decision with a guy who isn't any good. You can't be offended about anyone being torn about this fight when the evidence to say it will be close is supported. What evidence? Seriously, mate, what evidence are you going off? You're going off Jake Paul, who hasn't fought a boxer. Right, take away profile, take away the fancy video edits, the star power, the money in the bank, take away, strip it all back and look what's in front of you. He hasn't fought a boxer, right? So what evidence are you looking at? Yes, Tommy hasn't fought particular good opponents, but they're professional boxers. Anyone who understands anything about boxing knows when you have no amateur record You build yourself up in a boxing sense. You fight opponents who haven't got the same ability as you. You're trying to learn on the job, right? But you're fighting boxers. If Jake Paul was to fight every single one of Tommy's opponents in a legit fight, they weren't just coming for a payday, they could actually win the fight, Jake Paul wouldn't win a fight. Wouldn't win, he'd get taken. I'd actually think he'd get taken out on all of them. If they were all 10-round fights, he'd get taken out, right? That's the truth of it. So you're saying the evidence supports it. What evidence? If I was to box True Geordie, and all due respect to the bloke, right? I'm not a professional boxer, right? But I've got some type of ability. I've been around boxing gyms. I'm out of shape at the moment. I'm a bit of a fat slob. But if I get myself in shape, I can box. Right? I've had a few white collar fights. I've sparred many fighters. I've been around gyms for years. Right? I've got some type of boxing ability. I don't think I'm a pro, but I've got some type of boxing ability. If I was to box True Geordie, I would fuck him up, right? I'd outclass him and I'd fuck him up. I'd look like Floyd Mayweather. No word of a lie. You can make it happen. I don't give a fuck, right? No problem. I would look like Floyd Mayweather. I don't care what boxing footage there is of him. I've seen a little bit where it's all fancy with 4K videos and it looks good. And you can have boxing people around you, you can have coaches, but ultimately the guy's he's not a boxer, is he? He's not really got any type of ability. You could see that just by him hitting the bag, right? If I was to box him, I would look like Floyd Mayweather. So on True Geordie's basis, I could go around saying, oh, look, I could beat a professional fighter because I outclassed him, a non-boxer. Look at my head movement, or look at my shoulder roll, or look at the way I attach to the body and the head. Look at my combinations. That means I'm a better boxer than this pro boxer. Well, no, because clearly when you're fighting someone who's a lot lower than you, you can look good. Anyone who's been in a boxing ring can understand that, right? When someone is better than you, no matter what level it is, right, you can't land a glove on them. It's as simple as that. If you're better than someone else, you can do whatever you want. You can look like Mayweather. You can look like Miguel Cotto. You can look like Mike Tyson, right? That's how it works, right? So Jake Paul fighting non-boxers, and especially YouTubers and fucking basketball players, of course he's going to look good, right? Granted, fair play for him to even compete with MMA fighters, right? I give him credit for that. Someone who's just come from YouTube, I do give him credit for that. But please stop getting it twisted and stop blurring the message, because it's just incorrect, mate. It's bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit. The logic, it's just like someone who just doesn't really understand the sport, right? And no word of a lie, you put me in with True Geordie in a boxing ring at any stage, right? I would look like fucking Floyd Mayweather. Simple as that. He then goes on to say, does Tommy deserve a fight with Jake Paul? Probably not. In terms of what Tommy brings to the table, does he bring an audience? Not really. We saw that at Wembley. Has he achieved anything in the boxing ring? No. He's not beaten anyone any good. Right, okay. Let's go back. He says, in terms of what Tommy brings to the table, does he bring an audience? Not really. Right. Well, he does bring an audience, doesn't he? Right? He's got a fan base, right? He has. He's got a fan base. Yes, there might not be boxing fans, but similar to Jake. Jake doesn't bring boxing guys. His followers are, God knows what they are. They're not fucking boxing fans, are they? Right? So this notion that he doesn't bring an audience, well, he does. Online. He's got a big following online, right? He's been on a big reality TV show. Let's not pretend Jake brings a big boxing audience. All his audience are mainstream. They're not boxing fans, half of him, right? So stop talking shit about that, right? He then says about Wembley, the audience at Wembley. Have you seen the pictures? Let me get it up here. Have a look at this. 94,000 people at Wembley. Yes, that was the first fight, but clearly there's not 100 people there. There's probably over 10,000 there. It's a 94,000 seater stadium. Clearly it's going to look like empty seats at the first fight of the fucking night. Don't tell me that looks like 50 people there with a kebab in one hand and a beer in the other. Come on. There must be over 10,000 there, maybe more, right? So you say people aren't interested in Tommy Fury. Well, there's over 10,000 there, right? He then says, oh, this is the worst. Has he achieved anything in the boxing ring? No, he's not beaten anyone any good. Did you seriously just say that? Right. Who's Jake Paul beat in the boxing sense? Don't give me shite. Who's he fought as a boxer in the boxing sense? Who's he beat? Fucking no one. Absolutely no one. Yeah? Jake's last two opponents, Tyron Woodley, by the way, was coming off 4 defeats. Two of them were stoppage. The last 2 were stoppages. Ben Askren, again coming off 2 defeats, 2 stoppages, had been out of the cage for 14 months, just had hip replacement surgery, came in like a fat slob. Of course he's going to look good. Of course he's going to look like he's got power beating a guy who can't box, who's as stiff as an elephant and can't move his fucking head, right? It's just unbelievable, right? Tyrone Woodley, not a boxer. Not a boxer. I don't care what he's done in the UFC. Couldn't give a fuck what he's done in the UFC. I don't care, right? I don't see these guys as stars, as superstars, and I've got to lick our arse because they're UFC champions. In an MMA point of view, I've got complete respect for Tyrone Woodley. I don't have respect for him in the fact that he came for those 2 Jake Paul fights. He came into them just for a payday. He had no interest in winning. I don't care what anyone says. He wasn't going to take Jake Paul out at any stage, right? He had the opportunity in the first fight. He didn't. Jake beat him in the second fight. He looked horrendous, Jake. He took him out late on when Woodley was tired. Only had 2 weeks to train for it. Was it a good knockout? You could say it was from a technical point of view. I don't think it was. It was like something from the Flintstones. It was like something from a cartoon when you hit someone and go, boom! You could imagine Fred Flintstone doing it, couldn't you? It's just, honestly. You think a boxer would get caught with that shot? Seriously, mate. Honestly. Then he says, one thing you can say about Jake's previous opponents, they came with a reputation, which meant they came with a fan base. Tommy's fans are from Love Island. How interested are they going to be? Clearly not, because of the Wembley crowd, and that was in Tommy's own country, as I mentioned before. Does that look like there's 2 people in that arena? It's a 94,000-seater stadium, right? Of course it's going to look empty if it's not full of people, right? Because it's that big. There must be over 10,000 people there. So this notion that no one comes to watch him fight is just crap. Nonsense. Then he finishes off with this statement, which is just unbelievably incorrect. On the boxing level, the one thing I will say is that Tommy is of a similar skill level to Jake, and that's where it's interesting. What skill level is the same with Tommy and Jake? What? If you're going to put that out there to your millions of followers, right, then go into it, delve into it. What skill level? Let's talk about it, because you want to make statements like that, right? Let's talk about skill level. Foot movement. Who has better footwork, Tommy or Jake? Clearly Tommy. Jake plods along like a stiff elephant, right? He looks like he's stuck in the mud. His footwork is horrendous. Crap, right? Defense. Who has a better defense? You're sort of trying to say it's like even with Jake and Tommy, because Tommy got caught with one shot. Oh my God, it's a boxing match. You're going to get caught. We're not saying Tommy's Floyd Mayweather, right? I'm not saying Tommy would even be a British champion. I'm comparing him to a YouTuber who can't box, right? Tommy has a better defense. He's got better fundamentals, right? Who has a better shot selection? Clearly Tommy, right? He goes to the body. He throws uppercuts. All Jake does is feint and throw that ridiculous overhand right that any competent boxer will see coming a mile away, right? He can land it against non-boxers. That's the key, non-boxers. So Tommy has better shot selection. Who has the better gas tank? I would say Tommy. Even though Tommy's not gone 10 rounds, I would say Tommy. Jake puffing like a goldfish. Looked like a red lobster in those Woodley fights. And so we should, right? Obviously, you're only going to get that experience the more rounds that you do. So, look, I'm not going to go too much about the gas tank or whatever. It's Jake still, he's not faded that, but he's not faded where he literally can't throw a punch. He's faded to an extent, but he has done the round, so I'll give him that, right? Who has more power? Don't tell me Jake has more power than Tommy Fury. I don't believe it, right? And look, it don't really mean anything if someone has more power than you, because there could be someone who doesn't box who has more power than a boxer. It doesn't really mean much, but I'm not having that Jake has more power than Tommy. When he fights a boxer his own size, he knocks them out, fair enough, he's not. So I'm not going off that he has this ridiculous power when he's fighting smaller men. The Tyrone Woodley fight, you got to remember, it was the last stages of the fight. Woodley, which no one seems to pick up on this, had 2 weeks to prepare. He wasn't fit. He was just looking to clinch every time they got up close. He couldn't throw his combinations. Jake looked awful in the fight. He was awful, absolutely awful. And he landed that shot later on in the fight. If that fight was 10 rounds, I'm sure Tommy would have done the same. right? If it was 4 rounds, you wouldn't have knocked him out, would he? Right, so I don't believe this notion that Jake has this unbelievable power. Let him fight someone his own size who can box. Then talk about power. Slip, who's got better head movement? Clearly Tommy, right? Who's got better judgment of distance? Clearly Tommy. So where are you getting that this skill level is the same? I don't understand. Why are you saying it? We know why you're saying it, mate, right? Because you're in there with Jake Paul. You don't want to rock the boat, right? And it's as simple as that. Let's call it how it is. As much as I like the bloke's content, he's just talking crap about this. It's absolute nonsense. And I feel really big about media outlets portraying what Jake Paul is and not playing pretend boxer because you want access to him and it's all Team Jake and yes, Jake, go Jake and all this. I'm not interested. I think mainstream media outlets and media outlets like myself and other YouTubers should be calling this for what it is and not playing pretend boxer with him. And what this is a complete manufactured nonsense of a boxing career. He talks, Jake, about being a world champion. I saw that thing with Eddie Hearn, right? And he's saying, oh, my teacher said I couldn't do it and this, and they didn't believe in me. And even Eddie Hearn said, yeah, but it's not boxing, right? Sooner or later, you fight someone, you fight a competent boxer, you're going to get chinned, right? And all this nonsense of, oh, I'm going to be a world champion because people believe me, people don't believe I can do it. And it's like, bro, this isn't that, right? Jake's not stupid. He ain't stupid, right? The guy's a very successful YouTuber, media guy, very clever, right? Do I think he's a great self-promoter in boxing? No, absolutely not. He doesn't understand the sport. The brains behind him is that Nikisa fella, right? Who I believe used to work in the UFC, right? Believe you me, he's pulling the strings because Jake Paul has no understanding of fucking boxing. I can tell you that. Literally doesn't understand the sport. I don't care how many times he fights. When he breaks down a fight, it's hard to listen to. He just doesn't pick up on like basic things. For people to come out and to say Tommy Fury's on the same skill level, it is very disrespectful. Now, True Geordie said, oh, John Fury can't get offended. Well, yes, you can get offended. Now, if it's non-boxing fans, fair enough, because you can excuse them, because it's a bit of ignorance, right? They don't really understand it. Right? Jake can manipulate these people, because they don't understand the sport. So when they see edited videos and certain clips, and they see him knocking out non-boxers, they think, yeah, this guy's progressing, he could fight a world champion. Like, they don't understand it, right? If a professional boxer or anyone in a professional capacity in boxing says that Jake Paul's on the same skill level as Tommy, that's incredibly disrespectful to a fighting family like the Furies. Of course it is. No one is saying Tommy's going to be an unbelievable boxer. He's going to be a world-class boxer. He probably isn't, right? I'd be surprised if he reached British level, right? Because he's got no amateur background. He's coming into the sport with not a lot of experience, so he's learning on the job, right? And he can get better and better, right? But no one is saying he's going to be a world-class fighter. We're comparing him to Jake Paul. Take away profile, like I say, strip it back. You've got a bloke who's a very, very poor boxer. Has he improved for a YouTuber? Yes, but that is a different level to competing with boxers who do this professionally, who have spent many years learning their craft in the gym, right? When they were 10, when they were 11, when they were 12, right? Learning foot movement, learning fundamentals. You can only learn so much. What did Jake Paul learn in his last 2 fights? Absolutely nothing. Tommy Fury would have learned more shadow boxing than Jake Paul learned in his last 2 fights. So this is why it's all nonsense. If you have any aspirations on becoming a professional fighter, there is a blueprint to follow. You progress, you fight different styles, you fight pro fighters, you get the rounds up. Jake isn't doing that. He's had 1 fight in a year. And this is someone who says he's going to be a world champion. Like, oh my God, do you actually believe that? I can say I want to play for Man United, right? And I could play for a Sunday League team and I look like Cristiano Ronaldo. I might bend one in the top corner. Does that mean I can play for Man United? No, it doesn't, right? Put me again in a Man United game. Put me in a training session with Man United players. I'll look unbelievably crap, won't I? Right? I won't look like the same player I did on the Sunday League pitch. This is the same thing. And people aren't understanding it. They're being manipulated by True Geordie and by other people, right, into thinking this, like, Jake is a legitimate boxer. And when you're saying the same skill level as Tommy Fury, it's so incredibly disrespectful, right, because he doesn't. Tell me what. You might argue his power. What else? It's incorrect what you're saying, right? It's just unbelievable. I just can't believe people actually believe it. in regards to True Geordie's video, you're telling me that isn't the fight to make, Tommy Fury. Why? Because he went the distance with an actual professional boxer. It's a ready-made fight. Stop making excuses for this fight not to happen. Everything you said has contradicted yourself. Oh, he's not coming off a great performance. Neither did Tyrone Woodley and Askren. They both lost fights coming in, right? So that defeats the object, and they're not boxers. So that's nonsense, isn't it? Fan base. He probably has a bigger fan base than most boxers, right? So that goes out the window. This fight is an absolute mega fight. Now, I heard Eddie Hearn say it's a 50-50 fight on the face-off with Jake Paul. Do you know why he said that? Because he doesn't want Frank Warren to get the payday. That's what it is, believe you me, mate. Right? It's nothing to do with him, Eddie Hearn, giving his professional assessment. He knows Tommy Fury would wipe the floor with him, but he doesn't want Frank Warren putting on that event. That's the truth for that, mate. Right? So dismiss that. It's just, honestly, right, it's painful to listen to at times. That's the fight to make Tommy Fury. No other fight is ready-made. So what, Tommy Fury pulled out? It happens in boxing. Right? In professional boxing, there's pullouts all the time. No problem, reschedule it. Right? It's ready-made. It's probably benefited Jake more because he got another fight in. Even though he didn't learn anything in that fight, he looked worse than he did in the previous fight. He still got another 10 rounds or so in the bank. Right? And Tommy's had another fight on the big Fury white bill. So there's more eyes on it. So this notion that no one's interested in it doesn't work, does it? Or Tommy doesn't have a fan base. Stop trying to make excuses for him not to fight a boxer. You know what you're doing, mate. Right? Stop it. Right? That's the fight to make, Tommy Fury. If you're going to be a world champion like you say you are, or you a competent pro boxer and you beat up world champions in the gym, fight a boxer. This is the fight to make, right? Don't make excuses for it. There's no other fight out there that makes sense than this, right? And if he doesn't fight Tommy Fury next, then you have to ask questions. I don't think he will. I don't think he'll fight an active boxer. That's my opinion. Till I'm proven wrong, that's what I'm going to say. Right. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think of True Geordie's video? Do you think he was talking crap? Do you agree with it? What do you think of my assessment? Like, comment, and subscribe.